Dakota Johnson is Madam Web. Let's go deep into the Spider-Verse. Plus more Tobey, more Andrew, more Spider-Mans. Next up on Just to Talk. Let's go. So welcome to the Flicks Picks and the Nitpicks, and I am Young Boss No 718. Let's do it today because we got a lot to discuss, and this is gonna be a special Just to Talk. We're gonna focus on just Spider-Man, and most importantly, we're gonna focus on Madam Web. And Madam Web is coming to the MCU via Sony. And it seems that Sony has found their Madam Web for the Spider-Man Spider-Verse, if you will. Now, if you're familiar with anything that's been going on, at least behind the scenes, for those that don't know, the uninitiates, Spider-Man is in the MCU due to a shared deal between Sony and Disney. People do not know that Marvel doesn't own the rights to do movies. That's been sold a long time ago, and a lot of people assume that Sony should just give the rights away. Like, it's a weird thing with fans. Fans have no kind of concept of business, in particular YouTubers, for some reason, because I hate when YouTubers say just give Disney Spider-Man if you don't know what you're gonna do with it. And it's like, it's this sense of entitlement that is just kind of becoming obnoxious because it's weird to hear adults have adult tantrums online because they're not getting what they want based on things that they grew up with. That is they've outgrown the target audience. So they'll get mad if every little thing isn't up to what they grew up with as a child. So then it's completely trash. That's the new word that everyone loves to use. And it deserves no space side to side next with established lore or established continuity. Which is kind of, I get it as a, like, the geek in me gets it. You know, the attitude of I want what I want. I grew up with these characters. I have a personal relationship with it. But the moment I start running that game, I gotta remember these characters, I came way in on the ass end of their legacy, even as a child, even if we add up to where I'm at today in my life. Because these characters came out in the 60s to 50s, some of these characters the 40s, and we're mad that it's not the book that we read because we assume that the continuity that we came up in on is the gold standard. In a lot of ways, I get, depending on what generation, a lot of things that are now part of a lot of these characters' personnel has been kind of permanently tattooed, probably during your generation. I'll give you that. But then a lot of other key points of these characters have been well established way before you even picked up the book to read it, let alone been like semen in your dad's sacks for the night of conception before you were born. So to have this entitled attitude that these characters need to be written based on the characters that the time that you particularly read, is kind of arrogant, narcissistic, and self-centered, to say the least. I mean, these are the things that we just have to acknowledge. Though I do understand how you can be so reticent to go in on these characters for not being what they've been established to be when you were reading it. Look at me, for instance, with Spider-Man. I'm not into the whole Iron Man Jr., but there is a precedence for it. The Iron Spider suit was created at some point, yes, in the very latter years of Spider-Man's career, but nonetheless, it's been done. So to say that they can't explore that point in this third rendition of the character would be ridiculous. To not focus on his youth would be more ridiculous. To not employ other things in Spider-Man lore to infuse into the character in the MCU would be ridiculous. So, and it'd be a lie to say I still cannot recognize anything Spider-Man about him, even though to me he's not my Spider-Man that I read in particular. It'd be a lie to say that I find nothing recognizable about my Spider-Man in him. That being said, I'm not familiar with the young lady that they've selected to be Madam Web. But for those that don't know, Madam Web is an interdimensional Spider-Man character. I grew up being introduced to her. I might have seen her before in the comics prior, but I didn't really get my first rendition of her until the Spider-Man animated series, to be quite frankly. So I have not married to her lore or anything to that extent, but I only know her as the old lady. Now I came across a video where a YouTube channel, if you will, spoke on her and said that there were two Madam Webs, and they understood why people were up in an uproar. I didn't know there were two Madam Webs again, and even the guy happened to say that Madam Web was kind of a deep cut. She came and went, but they never really did much with her in the comics. She was really further explored, and most people remember her from the animated series, such as because I was like, I don't really remember her like that in the books. I've seen her pop up in books after the fact, I do believe, but it was never in something that I was readily reading. It was always like, if I was in a comic book shop, I might have seen her, like, oh, okay, I recognize her, but I never was married to the character like that. Like I said, my only relationship with her was in a cartoon, and there was nothing about her that was that impressive that made you want to focus on her. It's not like she was a Black Cat type of character, somebody that, I don't know, like was kind of a lot more involved in Spider-Man on a, I don't want to say day-to-day level, but Madam Web would be kind of like brought in for special big events, maybe Spider-Verse event, things of that nature, things where he has to cross multiple dimensions, things of that nature. Those, the more esoteric part of Spider-Man lore. But again, she's the woman that understands that in all multi-dimensions, there's a Spider-Man and there's a reason. And the reason is much more in depth and esoteric in nature than the accident that befell him in the comic books. In the comic books, he got bit by a radioactive spider and became Spider-Man. But when you deal with Madam Web, you realize that happens, or some variation of that happens to every Peter Parker all across the multiverse. And there's a deeper reasoning behind it. They also say that Spider-Man might have, wait a second, I hope I'm not doing too much with that. I'm not even going to say that part because I'm not 100% sure on that. Because it's better, like they add things over time to the comic books to further detail a character in a way that we've never explored before, sometimes to its detriment, sometimes to its advantage. I mean, you know, these comic books have been going on for 60 plus years. They need to add certain things to the lore to give certain perspectives to these characters to keep renewing them and reinvigorating them for each new generation to want to take part in exploring these characters. But Madam Web, she's an old woman, and it seems like they've gotten a very young actress to play the role, which makes it quite fascinating to wonder what it was about her as an actress that made you want to skew younger. But again, if I would take the information from a comic book channel that she's been younger, then I could see why. And I could also see why, even if they did it, if this was the original Madam Web, you could always go back into her origin story and kind of build her up to the part in which she gets old and she gets to the point where she's blind and she assumes this role in a multi-dimensional fashion and figure out how she got it. That could be a movie in and of itself. The two, who is she part two, if you want to give her a trilogy, who is she fighting that's going to try and stop her? The first one could be a whole origin story. The second one could be about her becoming this interdimensional person. And the third one, if they're smart, can be a tie into her mission that makes her, by the very end, seek out a Peter Parker, which could tie into another Spider-Verse event that either you might want to explore with a Tobey Maguire as your lead, or a Andrew Garfield as your lead, or a Tom Holland as your lead. But they all get to interact again in another film. It would be smarter to do that in a Tobey or Andrew film to kickstart their personal film, if you will, to reintroduce them into another film, solo series. And I think that will work very well. Madam Web herself never was just an interesting enough character, at least for me. But the actress, which I'm going to try and look up to see if I could get a sense of like her background, because again, I'm not familiar with Dakota Johnson. I'm thinking, when I think of Dakota Johnson, I think of Dakota Fanning for some reason. And I mean, she's fairly young. She's 32. Melody Griffith and Don Johnson is her parents? Get the fuck out of here. I did not know that. How about that? Melody Griffith and Don Johnson? I didn't even realize they had kids together. Yeah, I really did not even know if for 50 Shades of Grey, that is the girl. Yeah, I heard. Okay. That being said, again, I mean, I'd have to look at whatever she was in to begin with to see where she's gotten her claim to fame. Her name is familiar, but again, I'm not really familiar with her as a character. I mean her in any of her works, to see what she's done before, to say that, to give me an idea of the direction that they want to go outside of 50 Shades of Grey. And you know, I don't think I think that might be a poor example of a film that she was in to express that she could do it. Not to say that the film was that horrible, but it wasn't exactly that kind of good that we could that I even remember the performance that she displayed on it. I remember that she was just serviceable for what it was. But if I may read this that came from the Hollywood Reporter, Dakota Johnson, the star in Madam Web for Sony. The film is part of the studio's universe for Spider-Man spin-offs. Dakota Johnson is in talks to play the title character in Madam Web, the Sony spin-off centered on Spider-Man's character. S.J. Clarkson is set to direct the feature, which is part of Sony's growing stable of films based on Marvel characters. Again, I'm not familiar with this director as well. Introduced in 1980s, The Amazing Spider-Man, number 210. Madam Web is a clairvoyant mutant who specializes in predicting the future of spider-themed superheroes, having mentored not only Peter Parker's alter ego, but also multiple generations of heroes calling themselves Spider-Women. Traditionally depicted as a blind, paralyzed old woman, she is surrounded by a web-like machine necessary to keep her alive, meaning that she stays away from direct conflict and rather sends others on missions. And in the cartoon series, there's something that ties all the Spider-Man from all the multi-universes together in a very super natural way. as referred to as spider totems, that ensures that there's a Spider-Man at some point in time in every multi-dimension. That somehow, some way, someone is chosen to be some sort of spider totem for or Spider-Man based on this interdimensional spider totem system that selects a Peter Parker, and if not a Peter Parker, somebody to carry on the spider totem, if you will. I think that's how they refer to it as in every generation. So yeah, that's something I am familiar with. To continue, Matt Sazman and Burt Sharpless, who are behind fellow Spider-Man spin-offs Moviejunkies, penned the script. Madam Web marks the biggest studio feature in the year for Johnson, who broke out in 50 Shades of Grey franchise and has since focused on smaller independent fare. There it goes. She's been exploring independent films this time. That's probably why that they've selected her. Something in those films made it realize that they could build a franchise for her, and I think why they skewed so young, because they will probably want to explore this over several different films over the next 10 to 15 years if they can't stretch it for 20, which would bring her into being 52. If you was to start off with like a 60-year-old woman, I get it. 50, I get it. Me, I probably would have went 40 to 45, so at least we could carry this over into that person for the next 20 years, into them being 65. Madam Web, Madam Web marks the biggest studio feature in years for Johnson, who broke out in 50 Shades of Grey franchise and since focused on smaller independent fare. Recently, Johnson was at the Sundance Film Festival with 2 features, Am I Okay and Cha Cha Real Smooth, both of which she also produced under her Tea Time banner. Also, she's about her business, so I'm sure she's going to get a producer credit, if not on the first film, definitely on the second one. Madam Web is one of a number of projects in development as the studio builds out its Sony universe of Marvel characters. Sony, which controls the film rights to Spider-Man and other related characters, has already released Venom 2018 and Venom Let There Be Carnage 2020, and has Jared Leto starrer Morbius due out in April. Sony also has Kraven the Hunter in the works with star Aaron Taylor Johnson. The studio is riding high following the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, which has grossed $1.74 billion globally, the highest in Sony history. Johnson, who is repped by WME Untitled Entertainment, and Johnson Shapiro, can currently be seen in Netflix award contender The Lost Daughter. Clarkson has directed on TV series including HBO Succession and the Netflix / Marvel series Jessica Jones. She is currently helming Anatomy of a Scandal and 6-episode Netflix adaptation of the novel of the same name. Clarkson is repped by WME. Alright, well, it seems like she doesn't have really too much that bodes well under her credit in terms of commercial success in films and big tentpole blockbuster films, but she's made her name on the independent circuit, which is a credible circuit to make a name under. Again, she's 32, so she's not a baby. So I have a feeling they expected to build franchises around her and have her pop up in several different films. I would hope they would explore the origin story of an older Madam Web and maybe make her up and age her up so that she could be somehow old in a now sense, but you can make her story more of a period piece, so you can start Madam Web into her foray, if you will, or into her I think it's foray, I hope I'm saying it right, into superherodom, if you will, or into getting settled into her powers, and then have her aged up via makeup in a contemporary sense when we want to see where she's at now, as we explore her arc into her becoming this paralyzed blind person living off a machine and somehow being clairvoyant and accessing all these interdimensional environments and searching for all the Spider-Men via the spider totem system, if you will, and seeking them out for special missions. I think if they age her up, it would work, because as you explore her origin story, we could find her exactly where we need her to be, and over time lessen the makeup until she settles into that character. And in that respect, she could be old all the time, exploring all these different films that she could actually pop up into. That's just what I would think, and the way I would go with it, and the direction that I would choose to go with it, so that we can at least have a comic accurate character to satisfy the initiates from the comic book sandbook, the comic book fandom, but also find a way to introduce this character for new people that would need extra exploration to accept her and her skill set as we explore the multiple characters across the Spider-Man verse, because we know that the Spider-Verse will get pimped out by Sony, because this is their bread and butter, especially with No Way Home grossing well over $1 billion post-pandemic. This is their bread and butter. This is their baby. But let's go deep into the Spider-Verse and really explore where else can we see Sony do their best to exploit what they have, so that they can actually have their own universe that can rival what Marvel is doing. Because you have several different characters for Spider-Ham, for cartoons, for across the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales that they got going on, to exploring a real Miles Morales in the Sony MCU universe, to even probably exploring one in Tobey Maguire's universe, if you will, to so you can get an older version of Miles Morales as well as coming across a younger one. There's so many different ways that you could do this for you to tell several different types of Spider-Man universes while exploring different types of Spider-Man. And you can even go into, from what I understand, they may be even looking into exploring a 2099 Spider-Man, which is a direction that some people feel like you don't really need to go. I would rather Sony explore that while they exploit the animated Miles Morales, because this is the one that's going to make you excited to see a new a live action rendition of it. I feel like you have a beloved character in the Across the Spider-Verse version with that Miles, that there's no need to explore a live version right now. We had Tom Holland. We could do another 3 films with Tom Holland before we even get to Miles Morales there. If you want to, you could do one in Tobey Maguire's universe or one in Andrew Garfield's universe. And if there is something to be said that they may try to bring in Will Smith's son, Jaden Smith, to play Miles, which I would be fine with. But he's just too old now. If we could have got him when he was younger, perfect. But if you're going to try and get him now, then don't make him Tom Holland's Miles. Make him Tobey's Miles. That will make more sense. Or, matter of fact, what I meant to say, make him Andrew Garfield's Miles. I think that would be better. But if not that, Tobey's. That would make more sense. The older Spider-Man. Because we're going to go back and revisit Tom Holland. He has to be in college. Let's not go into his first year of college. I would explore him, if we're going to do another trilogy, his second year. So we can have 3 years between this and the next Spider-Man. We don't need another Spider-Man in 2024. We could wait to 2025. And in the meantime, in between time, we got more VS, you got other Spider-Mans, and then we could bring him back. I know that Sony might not want to wait 3 years, but then we'll want to do the natural 2 years, but wait 3 years. Let Across the Spider-Verse get its shine, then maybe do a 2099 Spider-Man, which would make more sense, because now you don't have to deal, this is in the future cars, future stuff. And you will want to strike now before waiting the closer that we get to 2099, where it will be less realistic, the shit that they got going on in it, like flying cars, flying this, you will want to make something that, if you want to get real far out with how the world could look in 2099, you will want to try to do your best to explore it as early as possible, and that will probably be better than later, when it's less likely to have a lot of this futuristic stuff that they did have in the comic book, because the world New York City looks vastly different, and there's a lot of different things that's going on. Now, I read the comic not a lot growing up. That wasn't really a comic series that I was married to, but I am very familiar with the 2099 series. I remember that in Punisher in 2099 and Hulk 2099, where Hulk looked more like a lizard. So I remember that. But in any event, I think that's the direction you do want to explore. Now, coming off of No Way Home, I do believe that there will be more Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, like a Spider-Man 4 with Sam Raimi, which would be a good way to close out on a great note to close out on, because everybody knows that Spider-Man 3 with Sam Raimi, basically, even though it did well at the box office, narratively speaking and critically speaking, it just didn't live up to its predecessing films in the franchise. And we already know that The Amazing Spider-Man suffered the same thing as Spider-Man 2, doing way too much. So Andrew Garfield had a good opening, go out with the first Spider-Man. The second one, not so much critically, even though it made money at the box office. And it could really need to give, it'd be dope for him to get a third one to give him a good trilogy. I would like to see him go up to Spider-Man 4 with Andrew Garfield, so we could somehow fix the mistakes of what happened in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And also, if you want to, instead of using that Venom that we got in Tom Holland's universe, we could use that in Andrew Garfield's. And I think that's the direction that they're going to end up going. Andrew Garfield got so much of a good response from it. And when you really think about it, Venom, that movie, it has a better fitting in Andrew Garfield's universe than it does in Tom Holland. Which would make sense when we seen that Venom showed up. He showed up in Tom Holland's universe. But what universe does he already exist in? They don't allude to the Avengers. They don't do any of that. It's possible that that is going to be Venom, and Let There Be Carnage might have happened all in Andrew Garfield's universe. Because we already seen Venom and Eddie Brock in whatchamacallit's universe already. We already had that in Tobey. It's possible, if you ask me, that this may be Andrew Garfield's Venom. And at the last minute, they could do that. Instead of bringing Venom into Tom Holland's universe, we already left the symbiote, so the symbiote could catch someone there that Marvel could be more in control of if they use that one in Tom Holland's universe. So that one could be more to continuity. And this Venom could be folded over into Andrew Garfield's universe. Maybe we will explore that in another just to talk a little bit further, because as I think that's more plausible now more than ever. But in any event, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you think? You think we're going to get more Spider-Mans in the future? Are you excited about it? How do you feel about Madam Web? Do you think that they got a good casting going on? Leave it in the comments below. And as always, just to let you guys know, that article again was brought to you by, that I read was brought to you by, and I want to bring it up so I can give them their proper credit. The Hollywood Reporter, written by Mia Gallupo. And again, leave it in the comments below what you thought about it. like, share, subscribe. See you next time, and as always, till I have a better outro. Chill.